Cult of the Lamb. It's a cute little roguelite base builder released by Massive Monster back in mid-2022 about starting and running your own little death cult of cuddly critters. I first played through the game a few months ago on stream, over at twitch.tv/Felix_fighter, and had a lot of fun doing a casual playthrough in normal mode. But shortly after I finished the game, they released a massive post-game update. The sex up, the Sins of the Flesh. I figured, hey, rather than just jumping into this new post-game update on my old save, why not try a new game on permadeath for funsies? Oh yeah, and while we're at it, let's just throw it on the hardest difficulty. I mean, it can't be that much harder than normal, right? Fuck. Well, let's get started on the biggest mistake I've ever made. At the start of the game, you're shat out into a field, handed 30 gold to build a shrine, and a single follower to, use. We were given this nice little guy named Putregre. Anyways, I quickly doused him in a layer of red paint, set him to work worshipping at my shrine. Because every good cult needs a little bit of devotion. While he got on his hands and knees, I set to work on more important matters. You see, I was playing the game on penitence mode, meaning I had to worry about my own hunger as well as the hunger of my followers. Additionally, for some reason, I hadn't been sent here on a full stomach. I gathered wood and stone to make a cooking pot so that I could make some berry mush to eat. Now, you may be wondering, why not just eat the berries? No, impossible, for such an act would be beneath one of my status. I cooked my meal and gorged myself on the sweet juices of the cooked berries, watching as my hunger filled a quarter of the way. You know, that meal would have been enough to feed a follower for a full day. And it was around this point that I realized just how much of a problem food was going to be, considering the black hole I was piloting around. In order to get a reliable source of food, though, I was gonna have to learn how to farm. This is where our follower from earlier comes in. You see, our shrine, in a sense, is our cult's tech tree. As devotion is poured into it from our followers, I gain divine inspirations, allowing me to unlock new buildings for the cult. With the piddly devotion I'd gained so far, I was only able to unlock the temple. An important part of the cult, mind you, though one that I was currently unable to build. In order to start on that construction, I needed gold. This is a part of the game that's never really made sense to me though, like, who's the gold for? I'm providing the raw materials and the labor. Sure, it could be to pay my cultists, but like, why would I do that? Maybe it's just like an offering to the gods or something, I don't know. Either way, I was gonna have to get me some gold, which meant it was finally time for a crusade! This is where the roguelite aspect of the game comes in. You see, your cult is surrounded by regions controlled by the old faith, a violent death cult that kills all that oppose it. The good thing about death cults, though, is they're usually full of money and unhappy people just looking for an excuse to leave. This means that during my crusades, I could stock up on both gold and followers, along with a plethora of other resources. For now, though, the only region available to me is the Dark Ones, and with the help of my follower, we blasted open the door and prepared for my assault. At the start of each crusade, you're given a random weapon and spell. For the sake of this challenge, I've decided to go ahead and rank each of the weapon types and their variances, a list that is objective fact and indisputable. For the sake of this crusade, I got the dagger. Good attack speed, good DPS, but its short range and weak stagger make it pretty dangerous to use. Low B. With that out of the way, it was at about this point in the game that I realized one of the biggest kneecaps put on me by the very hard difficulty. My health. Yep, that's right. 2 hits and I'm down. Now, this posed a bit of a problem for me, because I'm bad at video games. In fact, I'm particularly bad at roguelites. I have a knack for panicking when I'm hit, which oftentimes just leads to me taking more follow-up damage, which is bad. But hey, let's look on the bright side. The Dark Woods is kind of just the tutorial region for the whole game, so none of the enemies are that hard. Anyways, as I continued to the end of the floor, I found myself in a portal that led deeper into the woods. It was at this point that I got to choose what direction I went to my crusade. And food! Food. With that free tile out of the way, it was time that I cleared the final floor of the crusade. As I explored the floor and killed Old Faith cultists, I stumbled upon an old friend of mine, Clawneck. Every time you find Claw Neck during your crusades, you get to pick a card. These cards range from being useless, such as a card that reveals your map or a card that makes your enemies drop fish of all things, to being absolutely overpowered, such as a card that gives you a whole extra heart, or one that causes enemies to just have a chance to drop a shield when they die. Luckily, I got a good card, and he bestowed upon me a full shield heart. As I reached the end of my crusade, it was time for me to face my first mini-boss, Amdusius. And he's a total pushover. No real way around it. I mean, just look at this fight. I know he's like the first boss of the game and everything, but this is just pathetic. That being said, you don't kill the mini-bosses. No, you convert them. You turn your enemy's followers against them as you crusade through their lands. Which is just awesome. After bleeding the temple's coffers dry, though, I returned to indoctrinate my new member. And by indoctrinate, I mean splash a fresh coat of red paint on him. With the money I stole, obtained during my crusade, I erected a massive temple by the entrance of my cult so that all may bask in its glory. The temple is used for a variety of really important things, but for now, we just need to focus on sermons. After all, what kind of cult leader would I be if I wasn't preaching on the daily? Sermons are really important because as you can see, hey look, it's tomorrow! And as you can see, sermons make me stronger. So yeah, sermons are important. Anyways, with my extra health, I was feeling pretty confident, so it was time for yet another crusade. This time, I got the hammer. It has the highest base damage and stagger of any weapon, but you have to stand completely still to swing it, and it swings slower than a paraplegic grandmother. Low C at best. During this run though, I came to a shocking realization. I don't know if this is part of playing on the highest difficulty, or if this is just part of the new update. Saving followers was like a wave defense thing or something. When I first played through the game, most of the time follower squares were just like a burnt out village with a sole survivor. Not me fighting for my fucking life. Aside from that little annoyance though, I didn't really run into any problems during my crusade. So it was finally time to face my second mini-boss. This fight really highlighted the weakness of the hammer's attack speed. Since this boss was constantly jumping around, I could rarely land more than one attack at a time, making it an absolute slog. Not hard, just very long. By the way, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I named the Cult of Pain, because I figured this run would leave me in absolute pain, which is why you see this every time I return. Anyways, with another crusade out of the way, it was time for me to do a little work on the cult. After all, with every new member, I added a new mouth to feed, meaning scavenging for food was going to stop working pretty soon. Luckily, my faithful followers had learned the basics of agriculture, and I was able to get to work on setting up a field. Fields are made with grass, but not our grass. Our grass is, sacred or something. Luckily, grass can also be acquired from crusades, so if you ever see me just attacking a bush, know that it's to prevent world hunger, and not because of some unjustified hatred for nature. Anyways, for the time, I was only able to afford 6 farm plots. Now this posed a problem, as each plot could only hold 1 plant. 1 plant could only yield 3 to 4 crops. With meals costing 6 crops apiece, our field was only able to output 3 meals every few days. For reference, this little bastard eats that on his own in 1. In order to survive, I was going to have to abuse the second and third functions of the temple to buy myself some time. First, I was able to declare a doctrine using a tablet which I gained from leveling followers and from on crusades. This doctrine gave me the power to declare a ritual fast, bringing me to the last function of the temple. Rituals. Rituals can be performed using the bones of our enemies to gain some sort of effect, such as this convenient one that locks my followers' hunger at max for 3 days. Now, this does cost me some faith, but that can quickly be remedied with a sermon and some blessings. During my sermon, though, I unlocked Bane weapons, or more aptly named poison weapons. Bane weapons have a chance to apply poison on hit, and poison is insanely strong. And I don't know why this is the first type of weapon you unlock, because this is a solid A tier. With the food crisis temporarily solved, I figured it was time to head back out on another crusade. I wonder what weapon I'll get this time. Oh. The axe is bad and stupid and dumb and I hate it. F tier. No arguments. Anyways, during this crusade, I ran into the first elite enemy. Elite enemies are just normal enemies, but like, bigger. Don't get me wrong, they're annoying. Sometimes they can have some pretty strong effects attached to them, but usually they kind of just feel like a tankier version of their normal counterpart. With this elite guy out of the way, and a pretty hype wood tile behind me, I made my way towards the boss room. Before I get there though, my god decided to answer my prayers. That's right, baby, I ain't gotta use that X no more. And on top of that, he gave me the claws. They've got a nutty 3-hit combo with massive AoE, good damage, and a strong stagger. Solid A tier. With the best weapon I'd gotten so far in hand, it was time for me to take on the third mini-boss. And just like the other two, since the Darkwoods is mostly a tutorial area, he went down without much of a fight. I promise, these get a lot harder. Trust me, you will see plenty of pain before this challenge is over. Speaking of pain, I returned home to see that crows had ravaged my already meager field. You know, the one that was already not producing enough food. Even worse, to unlock a scarecrow, I needed to have a level 2 colt. By the way, the concept of colts being able to level up is baffling to me. Like, what level do you think Jonestown was? Sorry, getting sidetracked. I went ahead and leveled up the colt, but that meant I still needed to wait for the devotion for another inspiration. So I figured there was no time like the present to take another dive into the Darkwoods. And at the start of this crusade, I finally got it. That's right, baby. It's the motherfucking gun. Huge stagger, huge knockback, huge damage, decent attack speed. It's the whole shebang. This thing is S tier without a doubt. No, not just S tier, SSS tier. Boom, baby, we're taking it to the top. Best part about it is, I got it at the perfect time. You see, your fourth crusade in any land is a special one. Notice how I've been calling all those other guys mini-bosses? Well, the fourth major fight of every region is the big one, the region's bishop. With my gun in hand, I marched up to the frankly quite hideous creature that stood before me and pulled the trigger. Oh, I'd been looking forward to this. The first boss of the game, the big dog of the Darkwoods, the climax of the entire early game. The man who is finally gonna show you just how hard this game can be, and he's just a fucking pushover. Like, I get he's the first actual boss and all, but this still just feels like a tutorial fight. Hell, his only attack that poses any threat at all is a circular wave of thorns he fires out from himself. But even that only exists to show the player you can dodge roll through enemy attacks. I literally no-hit this man on my first attempt. That being said, this is the perfect opportunity to point out that you get bonus resources at the end of a fight if you no-hit the boss. I returned home triumphant, and in celebration, declared cannibalism legal, for no other reason than I thought it'd be funny. With the new devotion I'd gained from my victory in hand, I set to work carrying my cult into a new age, unlocking scarecrows to protect our crops, and tents so they wouldn't have to sleep out under the stars. It truly was an age of progress and advancement. I even unlocked vampiric weapons, granting me a small chance of healing on hit. The power of this augment is so reliant on the weapon's attack speed that it has to sit in B for sheer inconsistency. With all this progress made, I knew I had finally made it through the early game. I figured it was time to take the fight to the next region, Anura. I went out to the portals and prepared to gather my followers and bust down that door. Okay, so maybe we were a few followers short of unlocking the door. That's fine though. I can just go back into the Darkwoods and search for more. Sure, this Birdman says with their leader gone they've grown stronger, but like, come on, it's just the Darkwoods. It can't be that bad. Well, that was 2 hours wasted. Also, let's just not talk about attempt 2. Hey, would you look at that? Run 3, we're black and white, we're in despair, and we just killed Leshy again. And this time, it only took me what? Just over an hour? So we're even making better time. That being said, I still didn't have enough followers to open the gate this run. But I did get the claws for my return to the Darkwoods. Sure, I took a couple of early hits because of this stupid water mechanic that is bullshit. But that doesn't matter because my buddy Cloudneck's got me covered. And look at that. I even found some health in the chest. This run just has to succeed at this point. To be fair, things did look a bit dicey again as I fought for a new follower. But then, I found it. The vampiric blunderbuss. With that bad boy, I was ready to take on the damn world. In fact, I was so confident in my weapon that I walked straight into that boss room. You see, after every bishop fight, if you return to their land and finish a crusade, you'll have to fight an optional 5th boss, a witness. Now, you'd think this fight would be harder than the bishop, since it's like an optional 5th fight, and that makes sense. But yeah, no. It's just a wave defense. I mean, the witness himself only has 1 attack, and it's this really wimpy charge thing. But hey, I won't complain about a free follower. And just like that, I finally had enough followers to leave behind the early game and to move on to the first truly dangerous region. My followers gathered around me. I called out to my god, tearing down the door to Anura, bringing to a close the easiest part of this challenge. Little did I know, all that laid before me was pain, suffering, and rage in the mid-game, which you could watch me play live over at twitch.tv/Felix_fighter, where I've been streaming this whole challenge. Schedule will be linked in the description below. Also, if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell to see when the next part of this run comes out. Until next time, thanks for watching.